Hey, Kurt, PBT Extra is a fun one today. My goodness, I've circled this one for a while. We have to start with the team that's on the up and up. The rise just keeps it's tremendous. It's like that beginning of a roller coaster. The Memphis Grizzlies are on top of the world right now. They just beat the Golden State Warriors 116-108. John Morant is going from All-Star candidate to MVP candidate to is he the best point guard in the league right now? And right now, it's an interesting question surrounding Memphis. What did you think about that game? They've had some great matchups in the past, most notably the play-in game, in my mind, as an all-time classic.
Yeah. These two teams have got a budding rivalry, which is part of the fun of that now. And I think two things stood out for me in this game. And one, just to be fair to Golden State, it's really evident how much they miss Draymond Green. Like when he's not out there, like it's really clear. I mean, remember back on Christmas Day, they're like, Draymond, go get Chris Paul to start the start of the game, right? Like, we're going to just bottle up their offense that way. They could have used him on Draymond. They struggled with Andrew Wiggins and Toscano, who got some time. And actually, Gary Payton, too. Well, by the way, I love the nickname Young Glove. Like, I want that to stick so bad. But he was like the best guy on Morant all game. But they really, without Draymond as the quarterback and the ability to switch and stuff, they're just not the same. That said, the other thing that really stands out to me, on top of John Morant just being out of this world, that's a team. That is a good, deep team that knows how to play together. You know, it wasn't Desmond Bane's night, right? Like he wasn't sharp. Tyus Jones is knocking down plays, and Brandon Clark is coming off the bench and like somebody's always stepping up for these guys. Somebody's always making a play, and I give a lot to Tyler Jenkins, who might be my coach of the year right now if I had to vote now, because this is such a unit that is blended and developed so well together.
Yeah, Taylor Jenkins has done a great job just trying to, in my mind, set a standard there, because when you have a 22-year-old, is that how old John Morant is, an early 20-year-old franchise player, there's always that growing period, right? Of, okay, well, not only are you trying to be the best player consistently every night against the world's greatest talent, which in itself is a challenge. Now you have to bring out the best of everyone around you. And that's the next step of leadership. And that's difficult for anyone to do. Nonetheless, a 22-year-old trying to figure it out himself. And I love the poise and the confidence he has in understanding his role as a great player and as a great leader. In the post-game interview, to me, it kind of illuminates this beautifully. He says, look, I'm going to take, it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. You know, I trust the guys around me to knock down shots, you know, so I got going a little early, but then when they started really blitzing me, hey, I trust the guys around me. And you're right, maybe it wasn't Desmond Bane's night that night, but he knows that I'm going to keep feeding you. And you need that kind of leadership to trust the people around you, knowing that, hey, at the end of the day, I can still take over this game. And he did. Late at the game, he scores those critical points and gets them the victory. He seals the game. He knows I can get 29 whenever I want to.
Yeah. He gets to the rim as well or better than anyone in the league. And he has right now, I mean, I keep comparing it to Iverson or Young Rose. Like the body control in the air is unbelievable. His ability to kind of take and absorb the contact, contort his body, and still get off a quality shot it's unbelievable. It's an amazing skill that I'm not totally sure I mean, I know he practices it, but I'm not sure totally you can teach that. Like he's just got that thing, and it is so much fun to watch. He's got unbelievable. I mean, the athleticism. Not this game. That block on Avery Bradley, the two-handed snatch block, that is the block of the year. That is ridiculous. That is the block of the year. That is, he just keeps making plays like that and turning heads every game. He's so much fun to watch. But you're right. I think he's growing into a real leader on a team that's going to be, I mean, this could be a really dangerous team in a few years.
And it's a few years. Like they just knocked off the Warriors and they just got Clay back. I understand Clay's on a minutes restriction. He's been productive in the minutes he has. When his debut against the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was very active. It looked like, he scored the first bucket of the first half, first bucket of the second half. They're continuing to get him into confidence, a rhythm of confidence. What are your assessments on this first look at Clay's return?
I think it's been as good as you can expect. I mean, he wasn't going to come back and instantly be all NBA Clay, right? 20-minute time limit, but he's knocking down 38% of his threes. I think it's 14.4 points a game through 2 games, 14.5, whatever it is. he's making plays, and he's, like you said, his feel for the offense, getting to the right spots, knowing when to drive and kind of take a play. That's just, he's played in it and he's fit right back in quickly. And I think that's not going to be, sometimes when a guy's out, there's that growing pains of fitting him back in and where does he go? But with Klay, I think it's going to be relatively seamless. It might be harder on like Jordan Poole getting used to coming off the bench, but I think he'll get there again. He had a rough game against the Grizzlies. I think 3 of 11. That's not going to happen every night. Partial of that, by the way, when we were talking about the Grizzlies, we didn't mention this. That is a long, athletic, aggressive, trying to turn the ball over defense, right? I mean, they're just in the way of everything, and they've got the athleticism. They're not playing some drop back, big man in the middle defense. They're trying to force you into mistakes.
We've noticed this about some of these young teams recently, led by very talented young players. Great offense, a lot of talent, but either one, they can't get the best out of everyone else around them yet, because it takes years, generally speaking, in the NBA to do that. Once again, best players in the world. Or we've seen the fact that, hey, maybe you're great at offense, but the defense isn't there, right? And that's why the Golden State Warriors are so good, because they have the offense ability and the defensive prowess. Well, guess what? You mentioned it. The Memphis Grizzlies are one of the best defensive teams in the whole NBA, despite being so young, despite being led by Ja Morant. It's very, very interesting to me when you think about the long term. This, not even in a few years, this year, I think they're just really squarely in that upset category where they might be down the road.
Are they even an upset though? I mean, they're the 4 seed and they're locked in at the 4 seed, by the way. They are, as of us talking today on Wednesday, they are 4 seed, 5.5 games up on the 6 seed, or they're a 5 seed, which is Dallas. So they are 5.5 games locked into a home court for the first round. They're actually only 3.5 games back of Phoenix for the number 1 seed. They are closer to number 1 than they are to number 5. Not only are they going to be in the playoffs, they are very well may be home for the first round. And that would make it tough on whether it's Dallas or, whoever gets into that, Denver, Lakers, whoever ends up in that 5 spot. That's no easy. They're not just going to roll over for you, man. That athleticism is going to carry over.
Yes, I think the reason why I say it's a bit of an upset to me is because I think we're seeing the flower bud and bloom, right? It's still like a young sapling turning into a mature tree in that sense. So in my mind, this is why this game doesn't mean as much to me, because the Golden State Warriors, as you mentioned, don't have Draymond, which is like the glue. I mean, he can guard Kevin Durant and Chris Paul. Well, name a player in the NBA that can do that, right? So they don't have him. Klay's on his second game back, and they're clearly altering their whole offense just to make sure Klay's in a rhythm and making sure that he's as comfortable as possible. So this isn't a Golden State Warriors team that we're used to seeing as one of the best team, if not the best team in the NBA right now. And the Memphis Grizzlies took full advantage of that. So they walk away with the win in a close game. You can't this isn't the Super Bowl. This isn't the NBA Finals. That's why in 30 games, when we talk about playoffs, in 40 games, I'm going to be curious when you have all the best teams saying, okay, now we're playing the best of 7. This isn't just a one-off where we're missing these guys. We're playing for it all now. To me, I think teams like the Warriors will definitely start taking the edge in that scenario. But we'll see. Who would have thought we'd be spending so much time talking about Memphis? This is great, Kurt. Now let's move on to talk about a team that we spent a lot of time talking about, Joel Embiid and the 76ers. Tell me about Embiid's dominant performances these past games. They're hanging right at the top of the Eastern Conference, but not as dominant as we've seen them recently. What are your hopes for this 76ers team?
I mean, 7 games in a row with 30-plus points for Joel Embiid. The only other 2 76ers to do that, Wilt Chamberlain, who owns every, just if you're going to mention an offensive record in the NBA, you can just assume it's Chamberlain's until proven otherwise. And then Allen Iverson. That's some serious company. And if you watch him, it's not just that they're feeding him in the post and he's beating some guys up, because they're doing a little of that. But his game now with his mid-range, his 3, he wants the ball 15, 18 feet out and can face up and just take guys off the dribble. His mid-range is falling, which it kind of wasn't earlier in the season. He's just been a dominant force, frankly, on both ends. He's been great on defense as well. That's why they've won 7 in a row. And it makes it really interesting when they're playing this way and they're getting good play from Tyrese Maxey and they're getting good play from other guys. just how good are they? And in an East that, I mean, we keep saying, oh, Brooklyn and Milwaukee will be there at the end. And I genuinely believe that. They really haven't been consistently yet. And I don't know what to make of, like, just how good will Chicago be? Like, you've got these questions too, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have these questions. But you look at where the 76ers have been, right? A couple of years ago, I was reading where they finished in the Eastern Conference. Third. Then they finished sixth. Then last year they finished first. Then this year they were close to the top, and now they've fallen down to fifth. And it's trying to. So it is an interesting question. How good is this team, as you mentioned? And to me, with Joel Embiid, we know he's an MVP caliber player. I mean, it's not like last year. Look at the voting, right? It's very clear. He's right there. Just the question is, when is he going to go over the hump and get an MVP? His skill set's tremendous. His ability is enviable. But the thing about Embiid is consistency, and it's not talent-wise. It's just, are you available? And that's what I think is different between like Jokic or LeBron or any other Embiid. Like Giannis is a perfect example. Like availability. Giannis and LeBron to me are like right there at the top of that list. And Embiid, if he's available, the 76ers are really good. But if he isn't available, they're not. And we've just seen more of the latter instead of the former. And that's disappointing if you're a Philadelphia fan.
Yeah, and that's what happened last year in the MVP race. Embiid was a better, I think Danny LaRue used to call him the per-minute MVP. He was better as a player when he was on the floor, but he played 20, 21 less games than Nikola Jokic. And Jokic was not only very, very good. Like, I don't want to take anything away from him. He was phenomenal last year and he earned the MVP, but part of that was he was phenomenal and he played a full 72. And he's putting up those kind of, he's not missed much time this year. It'll be interesting when it gets to MVP voting, how myself and voters figure, like, what is that number this year? Like, what? Sometimes you're kind of like, boy, where do we start dinging guys for not being around enough? But COVID makes it all kind of strange. We'll see how it shakes out. But that said, that is the concern, right? And part of it also is that what is this team going to look like on February 11th, the day after the trade deadline? And I feel like that's the question I don't have. It's hard for me to say this team is a threat to everybody at the top because I don't know what the answer to that question is.
We've heard the murmurs. First, they were very loud with Ben Simmons, and then they kind of quieted out for a bit. And now, as you mentioned, this trade deadline, what's going to happen with Ben Simmons?
Yeah, front office started to talk about it again. They didn't for a while just because they were trying to figure out who they had to call up from the G League. They were dealing with their own absences in front offices. Everybody was scrambled for a few weeks. So that's settling down. The trade deadline's a month away. Talk is starting to percolate up again. And honestly, I mean, what you hear about Simmons depends on who you talk to. And I think you can tell just from the reports that are out there. There's the reports that are, hey, Mark Stein and others were like, hey, Philly'd love to have him back and playing for, finishing the season with them. And if that doesn't happen, they still want an all-star level player out there or something close to that. And that's clearly coming from Philadelphia. And there's other reports, and I'll just say people I've talked to on other teams were like, they can't waste a year. Joel Embiid is, like we talked about, playing so well. He is at the peak. You can't risk, like, just kind of, we'll wait till next year on him. Like, you don't know that you're going to get this from him. So I think that there's going to be movement. You hear Cleveland, you hear Atlanta. I think other teams, I still think it's going to be a 3-team trade with Oklahoma City using their cap space. Maybe the Knicks. I don't, you hear a lot of stuff, but I haven't heard anything I believe as solid yet. Like, Indiana would be interesting. If they're looking, like, they don't want to totally tear down, so that'd be an interesting fit. But I haven't heard anything genuinely getting close yet. Cleveland, I will say, I have heard they're being aggressive. I don't know if it's going to be Ben Simmons. But with Ricky Rubio down, you thought they might back off a little. That didn't really not. They've put the pedal to the metal.
A lot of interesting updates there. And with John Collins, I have to ask you about Atlanta. This disgruntled, it seems, star.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
That's an interesting one. I mean, he's so athletic, and I think there's a lot of teams that could use him. Is that a case, Corey, where winning would cure some ills when we're talking about Atlanta, where they're not winning, and it's largely because of their defense? And I think if they were, would you think he'd be happier?
It's Atlanta's a very strange team to me, Kurt, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I understand we're still like the season's not over, right? So I don't want to say, okay, let's close the book on Atlanta. But I mean, they are 17-22. They're in the 12th spot. And remember, after that playoff run last year, Trae Young cemented himself as a superstar with that playoff performance repeatedly, the consistency of performing at that level. But when I was watching those games, Kurt, I kept thinking to myself, how good is this team? I didn't really have an answer. I know Trae Young is really good. And I know they have some good pieces, but as a team, I was like, there are a lot of question marks. It seems like this isn't a very good team. And then we heard about some of the questions as far as, well, how do you manage personalities? We saw the coaching exit, all of these things, the players kind of having a voice in that as well. I think there are some deeper things in Atlanta that are problematic to me. And I wonder if this is just the beginning of something much larger that we're going to see there, because John Collins has talent. We've seen this. And you had a really good, successful year last year. You know what you're capable of. Why would you be interested in jumping ship so quickly, knowing around all the COVID-19 issues this season and injuries that they've sustained? You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's something deeper here.
I think there's something to that. I'm not sure that he feels much like Miles Turner. I'm not sure in Indiana, it feels like he's not getting featured properly, not getting the touches he deserves, and in the places he wants the ball. That said, you're not taking the ball out of Trae Young's hands. And as we've talked about, in Atlanta, the offense has not been the problem. They've been scoring plenty. The problem is they are a bad defensive team most nights, and that a lot of it comes to effort. A lot of it comes to, they are missing, certainly missed DeAndre Hunter for a while with the wrist and everything, but that team just has to be better on that. And I'm not sure. I think, look, teams will call about Collins, but I'm not sure who would jump on that. Just the asking price. I can't imagine Atlanta wants out simply. Like, you're going to have to give up something of real value. So, I mean, suddenly maybe you call Philly and you kick around a Ben Simmons type of trade, but I'm not sure, we'll see if that works or if that would be a fit or not. But that's the kind of, you're talking about that level of player if you're going to trade John Collins, because he's a borderline all-star player.
This is one of the most interesting conversations to me as far as understanding the value of big men in the NBA, because you look at a team like Indiana, right, where they're looking to make some moves. Carlisle and company there. It looks like a new dawn in Indiana. Sabonis is, in my opinion, still, you know how much I love Doma. I think he's incredible. I think Malcolm Brogdon is underrated. And it looks as though Miles Turner might be one of the pieces to move. But Miles Turner, if you look at his season stats, 13-7, right? 13.7 rebounds. We're in a new era. I think in the past, like a decade ago, half a decade, a few years ago, that would have been, that's a very, very good big man in the NBA because it's a guards league, right? But now with Jokic winning MVPs and Giannis doing what he's doing, and DeAndre, Aiden in the Phoenix Suns, and Karl Anthony Towns whiling away and doing what he's doing up there in Minnesota, we're starting to see, I think, a different value proposition for big men. Joel Embiid, 13-7 is not going to get you what it was going to get you 5 years ago, right? 13-7 5 years ago might get you tens of millions of dollars a year because you're doing your job, get rebounds, be a double-double guy. Now it's like, if you want to be a max contract guy as a big guy, or if you want to be one of the big items in the NBA, you have to put up Joel Embiid numbers. It'd be MVP numbers. And we saw that play out in real time with DeAndre Ayton not getting the max extension as a rookie, despite what he did in the finals. You do that 5 years ago, like, you sign a max deal. You're a franchise player. We're in a different era and different expectations for big men. So that's why I think John Collins and Miles Turner, I'm with you. I don't know if they're going to, right now, what they're putting out there, I don't know if they're going to get back what they think they're going to get back.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case with Collins. With Turner, I think Turner's more likely. Turner's and maybe Karis LeVert. The more you hear, the more you hear that Indiana probably won't end up moving your boy Sabonis. That they're asking the moon if you want him. And he is a two-time All-Star. Like, you get a certain pedigree there. What Turner brings, and I think would have to interest, and that's why I know the Knicks kicked the tires on this. Atlanta, he leads the league in blocks. if you're going to play a drop back style of defense, Miles Turner will get you some plays, right? He'll make some plays there. Plus he can shoot the three. It's just, I don't know that he's as good on offense or puts himself in the positions and moves fast. He doesn't beat guys down court very often and seal guys off and do some of the things that you can get buckets as a big man as much as you would hope he would. But then he has moments where he knocks down critical threes or gets an offensive rebound or makes a play inside. Like he's elite. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be, Jokic, Embiid, Gobert level. But if he's just a notch below, it can help a lot of teams, man.
So best case scenarios then for Turner?
The Knicks are interesting. The Lakers are out there, and I'm not sure if the Laker, that name comes up. Look, the Laker trade is simple because they've really only got one. It's Talon Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, and their 27 or 28 first round pick. That might be the best offer for Turner. I don't know if Indiana's going to get anything better. We'll see. It depends on the Knicks have the potential to put something really interesting together, and he would be an upgrade for them at center. We'll see if some other teams jump in. It won't as aggressive as Cleveland is going to be. They don't really need another 7-footer. They're pretty loaded on that front. If you're the Lakers, though, I think the question is center the position you want to spend your capital on? I mean, you're having your success with LeBron at 5. Push comes to shove in the playoffs, Corey. Who am I playing at the 5? Anthony Davis. I'm playing Anthony Davis at center, LeBron James at the 4, and filling out the rest of them. I'd rather have a good 2 or 3, I think, than I would another big man. But neither of those guys want to play that much center, and Turner would absolutely be an upgrade over anybody they have. So we'll see. My guess is that it's more likely going to be somewhere like New York or another team that we're not talking about yet that decides they need the center upgrade and are willing to jump in. And Indiana's going to want young players and picks. They're retooling. I won't call it rebuilding. They're not going to tear it down, but they're going to want pieces for the future, not right now guys.
Yeah, I understand that the Lakers are a 500 team. I mean, yeah, but what an amazing sentence, right? LeBron James and Anthony Davis neither want to play that much center. That's how talented these guys are. They can play all these different positions. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the top of the Eastern Conference. We know how stacked the Western Conference is. The Eastern Conference is a little bit of a different story. Right now we have a new belle of the ball, the Chicago Bulls, number 1, taking on a perennial contender in recent years, the Nets, at number 2. DeMar DeRozan, he is in his 13th season, and it looks like he could be in the MVP conversation. What's going to happen tonight?
The East is so fascinating because I still think push comes to shove, everybody's healthy in the playoffs. Milwaukee is right there. Brooklyn is right there, except the Kyrie thing just makes it like they're about to play starting next week. They're going to play, I think it's 10 of 13 on the road. They'll be able to develop a rhythm, right? Like if he's been playing most of those games, you can start to develop a rhythm. And I think in the regular season, it's fine. But you and I talked about this, Corey. 4 out of 7, that's when it gets weird, right? When you're starting Patty Mills at home and you're starting Kyrie on the road and it's a different lineup and you're trying to hone in on matchups and stuff, it becomes much more awkward. So I still think that those are still the 2 teams to beat. I'm really not sold on Cleveland, who slumped since Ricky Rubio got injured. Chicago's kind of got to prove it to me a little bit. I still think I can challenge some of their matchups in a postseason defensively, but every time I doubt them.
Yeah, coming into the season, it's like, what's going to happen? And then now they've played pretty well, and then so, well, can they keep it up? And then Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan they've been able to keep it up pretty well, I would say. Number 1, sitting atop of the Eastern Conference, but it is pretty interesting. I'm curious to see tonight because we've seen DeMar DeRozan hit some incredible game winners recently. We've seen the excitement around Chicago, and when the Bulls are good, that's good for the NBA. So hopefully this continues. But really, like you said, they kind of have to prove it to me. Recent years, it's been disappointing.
Yeah,
and it's just hard. And you think about Chicago sports generally. This is to me is kind of interesting too. Like with the Bears, and it just you have to prove it for the course of the entire season. For me, so that's kind of I'm with you there.
And I think you have in the NBA generally there are exceptions to the rule. I think there is something to be said for learning how to win in the postseason as a group. Like you can throw the 2008 Celtics together, but they'd all learned how to win. You know, Ray and KG and Pierce had all learned how to play in other places, and it was just a matter of melding. I'm not sure that's the case with this team, and that they don't have some lessons to learn and maybe some role players to fill in some specific holes for matchups come the postseason. But we'll find out because, like I said, every time I say that, you know, DeMar DeRozan hits a three and proves me wrong, man.
And I have to ask quickly about Kevin Durant. He is currently averaging just over 37 minutes per game, which is above his career slightly, but it is above his career average. We've noticed that, you know, recently Kyrie joined, James Harden in and out. Like there's been a lot of questions around injuries, COVID-19 restrictions. So where do you land as far as minutes for Kevin Durant? Is he playing too much?
They've got to find a way to back it off, I think, a little before the playoffs. He's like LeBron. He doesn't want to, man. He wants to play. He wants to be out there. But if you want 100% KD during the playoffs, I think you've got to find a way to get him a little rest. And I think part of the problem that they've had is they're not blowing teams out. And so you're not getting – you remember a few years ago, Giannis, in fact, one of the years he won MVP, his minutes weren't that high relative to some of the other guys going for it, but only because he sat a lot of fourth quarters. They were just crushing teams, and then he'd have ice on his knees midway through the fourth quarter and didn't have to come back in. That really has not been the case for Durant this year, and that's pushing him. And I think at some point, I think with him and LeBron, I think both of those players, their teams need to find a way to reduce the workload a little heading into the playoffs. And that's really easy for me to say sitting here in my kitchen and really tough to do in an NBA sideline where you're trying to win games.
Speaking of the Nets, I have to ask you this quick question. We love a good debate. Chauncey Billups recently said that Kyrie Irving is the most skilled point guard of all time. I have to ask you, who's on your list?
Curly Neal from the Harlem Globetrotters would lead. No. Actually might have had the best handles. It's an interesting discussion because I guess the question starts with how are you defining skill, right? Like Curry has a skill. He has great handles, Stephen Curry, and I think that's the modern guy who you'd say is most skilled. But part of his skill is shooting from like ridiculous distance. Trae Young's got some of that too, right? But I think Curry's a little more polished. But he's not as in an isolation setting, one-on-one, I can take this guy. I with all due respect to Curry, I'd take Kyrie Irving. I'm not sure, but where do you fit going back? Where did, Magic Johnson was incredibly skilled as a passer, not a great shooter, but a gifted leader in a lot of ways. So was he skilled enough? I don't know if he had the handles that you'd call him that, but he was certainly this amazing passer. Oscar Robertson. Like, I'm old, by the way, but I'm not like I got to see Bob Cousy play old, so I don't know where to rank. It's hard over time in basketball, and I think football's the same way, right? Compare eras as opposed to like baseball, where there are certainly eras, but I think in some ways the sport's more comparable historically. I don't know that that's the case with the NBA. It's really hard. But if you told me right now, Kyrie is he's got to be in the conversation for most skilled, doesn't he? I mean, who would you have?
I'm Pistol Pete.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, yeah, it's right. Like this reminds me of the conversation with Ray Allen and Reggie Miller when they're talking about Steph Curry before he broke the record. There was this conversation of, well, in shooting, there's a lot of different types of shooters, right? I mean, you can't just say someone's the best shooter of all time because there are different disciplines within shooting. You could be, okay, well, who's the best catch and shooter? Well, who's the best coming off a screen? Who's the best if I need a shot right now to win the game? Who am I giving the ball to? Clutch shooter. Who's the best? I need a shot off. Who can get there? Who's the best shot creator? So I'm saying, so there's a lot of questions there as far as, well, that go into shooting. Who's the best shooter of all time? And Chauncey Billups' comments, he did say, look, I think Kyrie's the most, he said, I think Kyrie's the most skilled player that's ever played that position. Just straight skill, nothing else, just straight skill. I think he's the best that I've ever seen at that position skill-wise. So that kind of gives you an idea here of, yes, there are different types of point guards. Steve Nash, highly efficient, creative. You have explosive, fast point guards like Tony Parker. Then you have Pistol Pete, a guy who's just a wizard with a basketball, right? So there are different types of point guard. John Stockton, one of the best generals to ever play the game as far as execution is concerned. So what type of point guard are you looking for? Skill-wise, I personally, in my lifetime, when I watch Kyrie Irving play, I don't understand how he plays basketball that way. It's magical.
It is. He is the best, the best handles, but also like in a more isolation, man. Let's put it this way: we're picking teams at the YMCA. I'm picking Kyrie first in a scramble pickup game. I'll take his skill set over anybody.